Alright, how's it going? So we got a great fight between Daniel Dubois and Fabio Wardley, right? Heavyweight fight. This is what we want to see. This is a great fight in my opinion. Both these guys are come forward fighters, guys that are going to look for the KO. So as fans, this is what we want. No Tom and Jerry, no running away. Two guys that are going to come in the ring and seek a knockout win. These guys are not interested in going the distance. They're going to get in that ring and they're going to try to knock each other out. So this is about I wouldn't say as good as it gets, because neither of these guys, I would say, have top level skill, right? But yeah, they're both heavyweights, both carry power. This is a very difficult fight to call, because either guy could get knocked out. I think it's down to whoever lands first, really. I mean, Dubois is going to be the guy on the front foot. I know the press conference today, Wardley said he's not going to back up, that Dubois would be the one backing up. I don't believe that. Dubois is a guy that, he's seek and destroy. He's straightforward from round one. Just look what he did to Anthony Joshua. Hurt him in that first round. That's what he does. He comes straight at you throwing bombs. That's Dubois. He can only fight one way, and that's to come forward, right, and be very aggressive. Wardley, he's similar, but he's more calm. He's a lot more calm. He'll look to counterpunch. If anyone's going to take a backward step, I think it's going to be Wardley, and he's going to look to counter Dubois. Dubois, he's coming off a loss, right? A knockout loss, devastating knockout loss. But when you look at the guy he lost to, Alexander Usyk, I mean, I think Usyk would put Wardley to sleep as well. I think Usyk will do the same exact thing to Wardley as he did to Dubois. I see people, there's this thing about Dubois where people call him a quitter, right? I don't see him as a quitter. I saw him go in there against Jarrell Miller, against Hrgovic, and even against Joshua, and he took some big shots. He had to walk through some big punches against these guys, and he came out on top. Dubois is not a quitter, right? I know he didn't want any more against Joe Joyce. Listen, if anyone took the damage he took against Joyce, a big puncher, a prime Joyce, 99.999% of people would opt out in that situation. They would quit. Nobody is staying in there with a guy like Joyce that hits as hard as he does, a heavyweight in his prime. No one's going to stay in there and let themselves go blind. That would be a stupid decision to make. Just to try to prove that you're tough, you're going to go blind. It makes no sense. So I don't see Dubois as a quitter. He also went down against Usyk in their first fight, due to exhaustion. Like I say, Usyk is the best there is, right? He's probably the best boxer of this generation. So to get beat by Usyk, to be exhausted in round one and go down, and then to be sparked out in their second fight, there's no shame in that. I think I said round one. What I meant is their first fight. Their first fight between Dubois and Usyk. Dubois, he got exhausted in there, trying to chase Usyk around. and Usyk just put a beating on him. But my point is that I think Wardley would get stopped by Usyk. I think Wardley would get stopped by that version of Joyce, who also stopped Parker and Carlos Takam, right? That Joyce was a wrecking ball. That Joyce was, he was looking like he was the next in line, you know. So yeah, I don't get on to Joyce about that. I mean Dubois. I don't think he's a quitter. I think he just came up against a guy in Joyce who was in his prime and, you know, a beast, and has a good jab as well, good, decent boxing skills. Very slow fighter, but, you know, what are you going to do? Again, in that situation, are you going to let yourself go blind? I don't think so. Not many people would, right? But yeah, Dubois, he's showing more than what he's showing up against Usyk and Joyce. You know, like I say, he's been in there and he's had to fight through adversity at times. So I don't put him down as a quitter, right? I think he's got a good chin. He's tough, you know, he'll fight. You know, Hrgovic was giving them a beating and he came through that. But yeah, when it comes to this one, I slightly favour Wardley because I think Dubois is more reckless. You know, well, I know he's more reckless. You know, he comes forward, he's swinging from round one. I just think if someone's going to land early and put the other one out, I think it'll be Wardley, simply because of that reason. Dubois is very reckless, he's very aggressive, and I can see Wardley timing that right hand straight down the middle and putting Dubois out, you know, and finishing him. But like I say, it's a bit of a 50-50. Whoever lands first is going to win. Yeah, and that's all I've got. Great fight. Let me know what you think.